Yeah, thanks for coming. My name is Arthur. I'm the founder of Somnium Space, and we are an open, social, and persistent virtual reality world. One huge thanks to everyone who has contributed to our Indiegogo campaign, which is currently running. During the 2 days of the campaign, we are already at 80%, which is amazing, which is like 75% more than we expected. so that's great. And we are constantly building and upgrading this app. So this week we'll have another big update coming to Somnium. And with that, I would like to welcome Rob, who is an amazing analyst, forward-looking person for the VR industry. I'm subscribed to your Twitter already for ages, and following all the trends and your thoughts about VR. So for me, it's an honor to have you here to speak to us, just to share your insights about what you think, where we are today in terms of virtual reality as an industry, or mixed reality even, and where do you think we'll get next year, and what is your kind of conclusion over the next maybe 5 years? So with that, I guess maybe the first thing, you can introduce yourself, and then let's dive into that right away.
Hi, Rob Krasko. I got into virtual reality back in the 90s, and obviously that's where that ended. Since there weren't any big companies investing at all, I got into web design after that. In 2006, I joined Second Life because it was the first VR world that, virtual world that let you monetize content easily. So I quit my day job and started doing that full time with my partner. If you're in Second Life now, you may know the store Snatch. That's our brand. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We still make a certain amount of money on that, but obviously Second Life's slowing down. Beyond that, when Facebook picked up Oculus, that's when I knew it was time to jump in full force. I'm just actually going to sit down. That's okay.
Absolutely.
There hadn't been any big companies investing in virtual reality at all. There had been a lot of independent companies, and most of their stuff didn't go anywhere. So when I saw them drop $2 billion on Facebook, I said, well, maybe it's time to jump in. 2 years after that, Analytica.com named me the #5 virtual reality influencer, which I had to look up the word influencer because I'd never heard it myself. But I was happy to take I've been called a lot worse things in my life, so I was like, that's great. So I kept going from that. I work independently for the most part. I do a lot of work with Views Camera. If you know what that is, they have the camera that kind of looks like a UFO with the lenses around the outside of it. I do some of their content design and different things for them. I recently had an engagement with Panasonic talking about their projection technology. So it's been kind of a mixed bag as far as getting work, but I have a real passion for the subject, so it's definitely been worth it. And I think today we're at a kind of a good enough level for virtual reality. We get a lot of criticism, obviously, but I think the good hardware is coming. I love Oculus Go. It's a really strong, current, headset. Kind of fixes all the things we have, the problems we've had with getting early adoption. Right now I'm on a Vive. Obviously, I love the Vive, but we need to think about getting more people into virtual reality, and that's an important stage we're at. We've got all the gamers, we've got all the early adopters, and so everyone's saying, well, what's next? And it's going to be enterprise adoption, and then people are going to be exposed to virtual reality at work. So this is the next step in the adoption cycle, I feel. A lot of people are looking at smartphone adoption and video game adoption cycles, and these have been an evolution over time, right? The phone that used to be attached to your wall turned into a walkie-talkie portable walk-around device, turned into a dumb, cell phone that maybe started to pick up some applications like, your user list and, calculator or Tetris and stuff like that, and which turned into the smartphones we can't live without now. But that's not how it's going to go with virtual reality. Virtual reality, it's going to be more like the PC market was back in the 80s and 90s. You got exposed to the stuff at work. You found out how good it was at work, and then you want it in your home. So that's what's going to happen now. Walmart just picked up, I believe, 14,000 Oculus Go's.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to be using them for training. They're going to train over 1 million average people, average middle income, not early adopters or gamers, just average people. They're going to be paid to have that first aha moment in the headset that everyone here obviously has. But that's the hard part, right? You can describe virtual reality to somebody all day long, but it's not going to translate into them getting that moment of saying, oh, okay, wait, yeah, this is actually different. Spatial computing is fundamentally different than anything else we've had before. So like when people go into the whole, is it going to be a winner of VR over AR? I'm like, these are just two different aspects of the spatial computing revolution that we're going through right now. Yeah. Including things like 360 video, volumetric capture, voxel modeling. All these things are different parts of what's going to be going on, for spatial computing. So it's not a VHS versus Betamax or, a HD DVD versus Blu-ray. All these technologies are going to be here 5, 10, 20 years from now. So that's just a kind of a stopping block as far as like that conversation. Just shut them down with that and say, look, it's going to be all these technologies because they're all revolutionary. They're not evolutionary like, smartphones and video games that we've had for decades. These are all brand new. So once you get people in the headset and they get that moment, and then it's a sold situation. And as far as the enterprise and business adoption models, training alone is such a compelling model for them that it's a very expensive thing for them to do in-house. Once they switch it over to VR, it's cheap, it's repeatable. Someone who needs to work on a dangerous piece of equipment, no problem. You can make a simulation of it. They can work on it all day long. They're not going to hurt themselves. They're not going to damage the equipment, or any kind of process like that. So that's where enterprise is going to come in and kind of bring the industry along to major adoption. It's not going to be one headset, it's not going to be one headset or one like killer app.
Everything.
Or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I see us at right now. And as far as hardware, the good hardware is coming. I like the Go because it's a very simple headset. You don't have to mess around with, slipping your camera in and out of things and wiping lenses down and the whole rigmarole we've had to go through. You put it on your head and it works. Oculus Quest will probably be even better, once we see what it actually looks like. But the better hardware is coming. And that's the thing that we have to realize is that we've got all the computing power we need. It's cheap, and it's not something we're going to have to worry about going forward. The next stages of VR that I'd like to see, I would like to see an AR-enabled virtual reality headset with 2 forward-facing cameras, so you get, a 3D AR experience, through camera AR experience. Because right now, that technology is, pretty solid, but you're only going to hold your smartphone up to things for so long.
Right.
You're not going to want a 20-minute experience holding a smartphone in a really awkward angle up to your face. You need the headset. And the HoloLens and, Magic Leap and Meta 2 and all these, these are fine. They're early. I'd say AR is kind of 2 years behind where VR is. But, the better headsets will come. And beyond, this kind of a in-camera effect, the next thing I'd like to see, and we'll probably see in the next couple of years, is a kind of the HoloLens type of display, with an extra panel across the front, liquid crystal panel that can be used to isolate that AR to make it be into VR. So you get a dual kind of thing with the good light field technology, so you can see some depth, but have it enabled so that you can actually also close the whole thing off and have a VR experience with the same headset. And also, in addition to that, I think that we will get something going which I like to call an AR alpha channel. And if you work with Photoshop, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. Right now, all the light field technology-based headsets are all additive, right? So you get nice glowy, floating things, but you can't render black. And that's kind of been something that people are like, oh, that's weird. You can't render black at all. No, because you're adding light to the imaging. Now, if you had a liquid crystal panel across your full field of view, and you could black out areas or simply make them darker, then you get your black back, as well as being able to just black the whole thing out, and so you get your virtual reality experience. Because as much as people are enamored with AR right now, there are times you want to block out the real world. You don't want the distractions of the real world, especially in things like training, where people are going to be all, are very easily distracted. You got your cell phone in your pocket, things are going on, people around, and people have a hard time concentrating. Virtual reality training takes all that away. You're in the headset, and there's nothing else except for what you're supposed to be, learning or doing. So that's kind of where I see the headset technology going forward. Beyond that, we've got 5G coming down the pipeline, 1 to 3 years rollout. It's latency less than 1 millisecond, and bandwidth set 500 megabytes to a gig and a half.
What?
That's going to. What?
Sorry, I just wanted to since we're at the headsets discussion. What do you think about? I have two questions. What do you think about? Where do you see headsets manufacturers standing right now? I mean, who do you think is leading the way, and what do you think will happen with those players, and especially with the platforms like, we have mixed reality, you have HTC Vive, you have Oculus. How do you see them competing against each other? And the second interesting topic and discussion I've heard over the last, let's say, half a year, is that when 5G is coming, we actually come to a point where cloud 3D rendering computing can be done. Meaning that you will not do computing on your device, you will rather do computing somewhere in the cloud, and then the result image will be downloaded in real time with the latency less than 5 milliseconds to your headset, where you'll be able to use that without having all the power needed to in your headset strapped to your face. So, those kind of two questions are pretty interesting to me, because I just would like to hear what do you think, who is leading the way in terms of hardware today and how this could evolve.
Yeah, right now I'm liking what's come out of Oculus. I was never a real big fan of the Rift. The room scale tracking was kind of an afterthought. Let's throw a 15-foot cable and throw another camera in your room. Not the best. And the optical tracking isn't as good as the laser-based stuff that we get with the Vive, but that's just me. I love the Go. It took all the annoyances of having deal with the cell phone and in a case, and you can just pick it up and put it on your head. I use it to look at 360 video all day long, because I can just go, oh, I'm going to look at that, and I'm in there in less than a minute. If they continue this streak with the Quest. Having full 6 degree of freedom, I think they're going to have a winner for next year. That's probably going to be the hot item. And it's not encumbered by a lot of issues with some of the other headsets. I like the innovation coming out from all the different companies. Right now, the Oculus, I think, is my if you're going to bet on something, that's I would say you bet on that.
I agree, and I might add maybe from myself, from my observation, I think kind of the hidden magic company who might surprise us all is Samsung. There are two reasons for that mainly. I mean, first of all, of course, they do the best screens, and you can see that in the new Odyssey Plus, where basically they kept the same resolution of the headset, but they doubled the perceived resolution for the person. So, like when watching the image through that headset, you don't see any screen door effect, and they were able to do that without increasing any computing power need for the headset. And also, I've heard from several sources the rumors that Samsung is preparing the headset which you were talking about, where you'll be able to combine AR and VR in one headset. Now, I think of all the companies in the world, if someone can pull it off, it's the Samsung, because they have tremendous amount of R&D power. They have best screens on the market. They can bend screens right now. We saw it, right? So they can do pretty much a lot of things, from glasses to to the headsets. So that might be kind of a hidden power in respect. And just a personal opinion, and I think our team shares that.
So
Is
it's
that
just down here.
the super underestimated platform in principle is Windows Mixed Reality. Many people, and we are amazed. We are in conferences. We use Windows Mixed Reality on the conference all the time because it's easy setup. It is a super sleek design and it's easy to use. And people just many times don't know what it is. They just come to us and they say, "Whoa, what is? How does it work? Where are the trackers?" And we say, "There's no trackers needed, And with the new updated tracking of Samsung Odyssey, like I can do this, I can do behind my back, and you can see that my hands are still moving. They're still tracked, even though I'm not looking at them. The cameras don't see them because they use the predictive tracking of the hands. So that is, those things I think this technology also goes to Oculus Quest. So when you combine that with the 6 degrees of freedom, then you get an ultimate device. And I think that's where we're heading in 2019 and perhaps 2020. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I like the mixed reality stuff. I think the problem was the marketing on that. It was kind of hard. Number one, calling it mixed reality, and it was a very muddied campaign, and you had a lot of different options, and I think it confused a lot of people. The fact that it's still tethered is, of course, an issue. You're still getting the advantages. I mean, I'm tethered right now of having a good PC, driving experience rather than relying on a mobile device. And of course, that's where stepping into the 5G thing, that if you can have that kind of and well beyond any PCs we have, have that kind of rendering and have extremely low latency. And I've seen the specifications I've seen of them under a millisecond.
Yep.
And of course, giant bandwidth. So it's going to, but the range of the antennas are very small. So they're going to it's going to take a long time before they roll out very significant amounts other than the major cities. But 2 to 3 years, it'll be probably very common to have 5G connection. And just putting all that big work in the cloud means all you need to do is have your display technology and, little localized buffering or whatever. So rather than having large headsets like the HoloLens and, the Quest is pretty big, you'll be able to start getting into that much smaller, much more lightweight and lower power requirement headsets that will start to get into, looking like, ski goggles, and eventually what we all want is glasses, where we have that really lightweight, thin type of experience that's on the go. I know a lot of people are looking for contact lenses, but I don't see a lot of people not wearing glasses. It's a thing. I mean, how many people in here wear glasses? Like, readers or, commonly, or we all got,
almost everyone.
Contact lenses, but they're kind of a hassle, and it's not necessarily everybody wants something that invasive. And
I think earlier than contact lenses, we'll get the direct Neuralink to our brain from Elon Musk.
Probably. That'll probably be an option, but well before the lens.
Exactly.
I'm a little scared of that idea.
I don't think people want to have something they can't take off.
Yeah, kind of. I agree with that.
Because you see the nightmare AR universes where every single surface is painted in data and ads. You're going to want to be able to take that off, or maybe we won't. At that point, we'll be so addicted to it we'll don't want to take it off. But I mean, right now, I'd like to be able to take it off, and I spend a lot of time in virtual reality. But that's but it's having that lightweight and just putting all the work in the cloud. That's ultimately the future where this is all going, and it's kind of what the cloud, what the AR, VR, 5G world needs is having that kind of power direct, because you don't need a 5G connection for your phone.
Yeah,
it's way overkill.
And I mean, the first phones are already there, right? So first phones are already on the market.
Yeah, but it's as much as they're looking at as far as 5G adoption, they're looking at the 4-year cell phone generation market where everyone has a different cell phone from 4 years from what they have now, and they're kind of hedging their bets on a lot of that stuff. But I think it's going to be some of the it'll be bigger industrial uses enterprise needs of that kind of bandwidth. So of course they'll be the early sales, source. But as far as like having a much smaller, much more lightweight, technology of the future, in 3 years, we're going to be looking at much smaller, form factors for a lot of this stuff. Because, not just because of the evolution of the technology, but also because we're going to be able to put all the real work off where we never see it.
Right.
I think that's ultimately where I'm seeing the stuff going.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And how do you see the development of content? Because there is a very strong opinion, and I tend to agree with that. And I'll explain in a second why. People say if we really want to push VR into mainstream, there has to be great content for that. And partially, I was always skeptical about this idea. I thought, you have first to have like great hardware, but after, we got launched on Steam with Somnium, and we've got, a big user base coming in, and people started to experience Somnium in 2D, not in VR. I think for the last month we had like 4 people who were hanging out with us in 2D. They just bought their VR headsets because they wanted to experience this world in virtual reality. They saw other people, doing different things like drawing on the board, playing bowling, and they just got excited and they wanted to do that. So I clearly see that if you get good content, people will buy VR headsets. But what do you think will be the ultimate driver on the content side for the next 2 years? Because today we got Beat Saber, which is a great game. But where do you see, the next step for the software development? What the next ultimate experience will be for people to attend? Is that this kind of experience where we're all in the same world doing whatever we want, or is it some games like Beat Saber or whatever, other type of the games?
Well, I think the adoption. I think is going to come down to not just having a Beat Saber, or not just having, Sony Space or Alt Space VR or VR Chat. It's going to be having all of those things and many other things we haven't thought about yet. It's going to be the app store for virtual reality and augmented reality, where you've got a dozen things you can't live without.
Right.
With the power of social VR. Social VR makes you come back because there's something going on and you have FOMO. You don't want to miss out on that thing because you had a good time last time. There's another one going on. Come on back in. That worked for Second Life for a long time, for 10 years. It was a quirky platform, didn't always work that well, but everybody came back every week because they wanted to meet their friends again, go and participate in events and, do things. So that's the hook once we get the numbers up. Right now we have, it's kind of tough because we don't have a lot of people necessarily on at any given moment. Peak concurrency I saw for VR Chat, I think was 20,000 people.
Yep.
And they've come down to more like 5 or 6, as far as full average concurrency. That's good, but when you get into some of the peak numbers we had in Second Life, 75,000 people in at once.
Right.
There's always somebody there. And there's probably already somebody there that or there's a group of people doing things that you want to do at any given moment, no matter when you put the headset on.
Yep.
And that's what kept Second Life along and continues to keep it going. And there's still, I looked at it, was 40,000 concurrency this morning. That's a lot.
Yep.
And so that there's always people there. You can always be social anytime you want to. So that's what's going to nail people to the wall with this stuff. But as far as your first experience might be Beat Saber, that really turns them on and says, yeah, I want this. People spend $20,000 on an exercise rig that turns into a coat rack in a month. They can drop some money onto a VR experience that'll do other things for them, and that's what they'll do. They'll get into the app store and say, "Excuse me, what are these other things I can be doing? Oh, that looks like a good one." But the social is going to lock people in.
Yep. All right.
So,
I think in terms of what is your ultimate kind of ultimate prediction for the next year? If you pick one thing which will kind of mark the 2019 in VR, and then maybe what's your 2025 vision? So let's start with the 2019. What's your ultimate? What is your ultimate thing which you think will mark the 2019 year for the VR? Just whatever you think.
Oculus. I'm kind of putting some money behind Oculus Quest and other all-in-one headsets because they're simple and you don't have to set up lighthouses or cameras and have a big huge computer. Most people have just got tablets or smartphones or maybe a laptop. They're not always that great for this kind of stuff, and so you can also take it with you to wherever you're going. So you can take it over Thanksgiving weekend and show everybody off this thing, which you couldn't do that with a tethered device. So I think those are that's the all-in-one portable. Some of the 3-degree freedoms, 6-degree freedoms. If there's a few more of them that show up next year, I think they'll take off because there'll be a much more of people are starting to get there. And like I said, they're going to use this stuff at work, and they're going to want to start to use it at home.
Right. That's an interesting insight, actually. Yeah, 2025, please.
2025, I hope we have something that looks like a fashionable pair of glasses that does everything. Doesn't have, we might still be looking at a backpack, a little pack in your pocket or something like that. As far as I don't know what the format on the 5G antennas will be at that point. They're a little big right now, but I think that's what everybody wants. They want a regular pair of glasses that does all this stuff for them. And they may have to have little side shutters if you want to have a full VR experience or something like that. But something that's just commonly doing it and working for you all the time. So if you've got a destination in mind, you're going to have the little markers all around and guiding you, like telling me how to get up to here. Go over to where the elevator is, go up and But that's for the real world, and just being able to get whatever information you want anytime you want. And for people who say, well, the smartphones aren't going to go away, if you've got glasses like that, you can hold the virtual smartphone in your hand and do all the stuff you're doing before. But you don't need that extra physical device. Everything could be in there. And that's where, spatial computing, as a concept, it takes all of that kind of spatial memory and, ability to find our car keys and all that, which has been, we've been using all through time, and puts it into the computing power. Backs it up with computing power. So that's why I say that this, the stuff we're doing right now is revolutionary. It's not like anything else, and that's why it's kind of hard for people to wrap their head around until they get that first initial good experience with the, in the face. Getting a headset on faces has always been kind of like the, the chant. Get people in there, and they'll actually start to have their aha moment and understand how important this stuff is. But just a regular kind of pair of glasses, because I think people are still going to want to take it off. I don't think they're necessarily going to want to have a Neuralink.
We hope not, but of course, I guess they will.
Well, in 7 years, we may be all so addicted to this stuff that we can't, in addition to not having it plugged into our heads all the time.
Right.
Right. No one thought having a phone in your pocket was going to turn into what it has become now.
Yeah, exactly.
So you really it's hard to do those more than 5-year jump.
I have a theory for the VR. I mean, I guess it's hard to predict right now, but I think I absolutely agree. For 2019, I think it will be the year of standalones with 6 degrees of freedom, like Oculus Quest, and hopefully Samsung and others will come in, and that will definitely mark the way. And we'll see not only the hardware, but we'll see some of the coolest apps from the store, like Beat Saber and others, going into those headsets and being released there. That will be kind of the huge moment. And we are actually also working in Somnium towards the release for the Gear VR, Oculus Go, and Oculus Quest eventually, so that people from the PC and everyone can connect to the same place. But in terms of 2025, I have a crazy theory. I think apart from not like in mobile phones or in PC, I think we'll see 2 different trends. So kind of like the VR will just disconnect in a way that one direction will be where people will be going more to the fashionable VR, and it will be more kind of a mobile experience, like glasses you said, exactly, for everyday use, and you will be doing occasional VR. And the other extreme will be people going into complete extreme setups where they will be, using Tesla suits with the bass bumpers and super high end quality headsets, and they will be, tricking their brain to a complete maximum where, they will just feel like they are in VR. And I think that market will not be niche. That market will be big. So I just really kind of see by 2025 market dividing into 2 big chunks, and one going mainstream and one going to a complete, complete extreme for immersion maybe once a week, 2 times a week, but where you definitely feel like you were actually there. And that's where I just feel that it might go in that direction, because VR actually is already today tricking your brain to a quite extent. You sometimes, I mean, I just feel like right now I'm here. I'm in this office. I don't know what kind of environment I'm sitting in. I just stand here. So that's the power of the computing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see people go. I would call that full virtual, where you're basically in a vat, or probably suspended, somehow, so that all the, like you said, all the, you get the feeling across all your body, whatever. I could definitely see people go into, full dive, level virtual reality. But in people's day-to-day, they're going to want the augmented reality, and with the option of, dropping into someplace virtual on the go. But
Right.
I could see people, strapping themselves in and, maybe put tubes in certain places and spending a couple days in that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
like a
rinsing off at
vacation.
the end. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility by all means. People have spent, 24 or 48 hours in VR other than, quick bathroom breaks. And,
Yep.
for the most part, they haven't gone insane. So,
I personally
Yet-
can't wait
yet.
to the
definitely something to look into.
Yeah, cool. I mean, so I guess before we open to the questions and comments, I guess I'll quickly recap what we just have said. And what you have said is basically, you said, right now VR is tethered. We're going to untethered experience. 5G will be actually a big point for VR, because that can change the way how people consume VR, and it's going to the masses. The key takeaways for me from what you just said is that you see it a little bit differently, and I agree with you that it might come from people using VR first at work and then going and using it at home, and not vice versa. And Walmart is it was at Walmart, right? Was a great example.
Yep.
Where they just will let 1 million people, their workers, to go through VR experiences, and that is a huge exposure. So that is, for me, that is kind of one of the biggest takeaways today, kind of an reverse trend of going from work to home, not from home to work. That's an important part to realize that might happen. And many companies are actually jumping on board. I'm pretty sure Amazon is doing that, and Microsoft and all others.
Quite a lot. UPS.
Yeah, exactly. UPS.
I keep hearing more and more companies are doing it, and because the training, the advantages of the training are just so much more over having someone physically train
Absolutely.
you. And then they can always go right back in and do the same 2 hours of training with zero cost to the company.
I once
need a refresher
I
or
once
anything
had a
like that.
training. I once had a training in the nuclear power plant in VR with a second person in the same time, and we were handling some of things. And after 10 minutes of training, I went out and I was talking to this person. I said, you know what? If I'm in the real life in that room someday, I know what I need to do. I'm familiar with that room. I'm not scared anymore because I was in that room. I know what to do, how it reacts, and that's amazing.
That's the power of spatial computing.
Yes,
because it's affecting your your memory muscle. So if you have to do a certain, I hit this button and turn this knob and do this, and you do that 4 or 5 times in VR, you get in the real world, everything's right where it should be. You're a pro. And you haven't had to be on an expensive or very dangerous machine or whatever. You've already done it 12 times, and if you need a refresher on something you hadn't touched in a while, go have a refresher. Spend another half an hour in VR and relearn it. And then that'll come back. It works a lot better than watching videos of things as far as a training tool. It's just much more visceral.
So the next level of YouTube is going to be in VR, where the NPC, maybe called YouTube, will be standing and showing you how to do stuff, right? Instead of like searching for how do I fix that, you go into VR and then they'll show you, okay, you take this, you fix this, you drill here, and then you get that, and maybe that's the future of computing. All right, exactly. All right, so thanks for the first part. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I have something. Is that okay?
Electra?
Yeah. So basically, we all, or most of us, love to spend time in VR. Yes. And everything it's nice because we see the world, almost as we see the real one, let's say, and everything. But when it comes to VR, there are a few things that actually do separate us pretty rough, I would say. Which is the fact that when someone touches you, or you have like a physical contact, you shake hands or something like that, you feel actually nothing. So then that leads me to the point. When do you think that actually we will be able to like have a hug and actually feel it, or and shake or all these things? When do you think that will come?
Well, I mean, some of that, is kind of available now if you're getting some of the haptic, suits, and of course you're just getting a rumble kind of feel. But, it can be, your brain will gap over a lot of that stuff, and it'll feel more realistic than it sounds like it would feel. It's like if you're going to feel a little bit of rumble around where the person might be touching you. Your brain will clean up a lot of that stuff. But as far as, the force feedback, that's real tough to do. I mean, I've seen, simulations where you put your hand out and a robot comes and pushes something in front of you so that you're touching this thing and you can feel it. But that's a very elaborate kind of, setup and wouldn't work for certain things. But, I think, there are plenty of people doing research into it. I've seen some of the force feedback gloves that, lock up the position of your fingers as you're trying to grip an object. So that and people said that that's fairly realistic. So that you did that, you could just go and you could kind of even feel the shape of an object. Full body, of course, is you have to have some kind of physicality, for a full body experience like that. It's going to depend on how much people demand that kind of thing. Because again, if there isn't a big demand, not everyone's going to put on a full body suit to get into virtual reality. And both people would have to have it. So I think that's probably a little ways off, and may get more like a neural link where we're taking over the entire spinal column worth of sensory feedback, and then we can just tell you, oh yeah, someone touched you here. But that's probably a way off, I would have to say.
Right. I must add, we were exhibiting Somnium at VR Days, and few stands from our stand was the stand from Tesla Suit, the Belarusian company, and I got to try it. I was amazed. I didn't expect that. So basically what they do is they put the suit, which is pretty tight on your body, and it touches, all the parts of your body, and then they have electrodes everywhere, and they're able to simulate through this small current going through your body the touching feeling. So what they did to me, and they just simulated the rain on my shoulders. And oh my God, it was kind of real. Like it just felt real. And I said, all right, if that is available in 2018, if I just think 5 years ahead, and they have a full body suit with the gloves, so they can track not only they can simulate the touch of someone coming to you and just putting the hand on the shoulder, but they can also track your biometrics. They can track your body in a spatial way, so you don't need trackers anymore because your suit is tracking you. And that was pretty cool. So, yeah. So I think one way or another we will get to the point where, and I guess it also comes into what I said. You either will opt in for an absolute, all-in VR experience where you will be feeling everything and you have the suit and you'll forget about your real life for 48 hours, or you have this occasional very good VR with 3D glasses and you will be able to immerse yourself on a daily basis, but in a limited way. In a good way, but in a limited way. So that I think that comes into play as well. All right. Anyone else? Questions? Sasha, you were raising your hand. Go on. Sasha?
Not hearing.
Okay, we don't hear you. So anyone else?
I did see on YouTube, I think it was a review being done of an Australian company. 2 or 3 guys, I think, that got together and created a sort of a hollow suite similar to that of Star Trek type thing. You don't wear a mask. You just literally walk into a room, which is all camera. And its movement, like there's a hole on the floor, and to continue the adventure, you have to jump into the hole. And although you may only be jumping from one floor tile to another, the walls then go up. So it simulates you dropping. So the screen actually moves up the walls. So although the room doesn't move at all, you are given that virtual experience within the room without the need of a headset. And I think if they bring that into sort of this environment, I think the VR is going to go absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I've seen systems like that. They used to be called cave systems, and basically what it was, you'd have, a pair of just like 3D glasses, with the shutters, and they would do projections on all the walls and ceiling, and they would track your position, so that they push this, so you would be looking at walls, but because it would move, exactly the way it would in the real world, your brain again makes up for the differences of that, and
view.
and gives you just buy into it because your brain's easily tricked. We're all very, you read any of the studies about, eyewitness reports and things of that nature. We're very easily fooled. Optical illusions, a very simple piece, things on a paper, and we're like, whoa, that's crazy. Because your brain's constantly trying to accommodate what, we see and hear into a bigger map that we have of the world. So, things like that, they're surprisingly convincing, and, even like you said with the haptic, that it's, doing certain things, but your brain buys into it and, says, this is what's happening.
Absolutely.
And tells you, that feels like rain on my shoulders, and there's no water involved, that kind of thing. But
and you can learn yourself. You can teach yourself
very
to
compelling.
This. You can teach yourself to feel certain things in VR. I mean, we have examples already from some people reporting that they got used to VR so much that sometimes now when someone is touching them, even without any haptic suit, they can kind of feel this touch. And I mean, honestly, just try to go to the floating island and then just jump from the floating island. And see what you'll feel. You'll feel scared, and you'll feel you're falling. Even though you're standing on your floor. I think one fun experience was like recently we were standing and talking on the floating island, and I was standing on the edge near the kind of small wall, and I was in my kitchen, right? But I forgot that I'm in my kitchen. I was standing on the floating island, and I was leaning kind of a little bit on this thing, and then I kind of started to fall down, and my eyes saw there's a huge drop going, and I got scared. I almost fell down in my kitchen. So the brain is tricked. The magic is happening.
When you've done any of those plank VRs where you walk on an actual plank and it looks like it's a mile down, that'll get your heart going. You'll buy into that experience, even though it's not real. Your brain says, "Oh, this is real."
Exactly.
We're going to bring up the testosterone and get everything going. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Can you talk about security at all?
Sorry, what?
Biometric security.
I can say a few words, but So we are part. Somnium Space is part of Virtual Reality Blockchain Alliance, where High Fidelity, Genus VR, and other companies Science Space and stuff are involved. And one of the summits which was happening this month, in the beginning of this month, was the security summit in Frankfurt. And unfortunately, we didn't get personally to go there, but Ken Bai was there, for example. And basically, the idea is the following: by measuring how you move in VR, that's one of the examples, and Sasha agreed with that. So by measuring how you move in VR, we can identify who you are without having your biometrics read like fingerprints or something, because everyone moves differently. Even today in VR, all your hand movements, everything you do is unique to you. So there's a huge concern that, for example, if someone is recording this, or someone is observing the VR, and they can record those data and replicate the data, then they can identify everyone even without you kind of opting in for the data. You can even log in as an anonymous user, but they will still know who you are. And that is a huge concern, because you cannot hide kind of who you are by your movements in VR. So you cannot kind of be anonymous anymore, because everyone will know who you are. So I think that is one of the big concerns. And we and other companies, we just try to kind of come together and think how this can be solved. What can we do in terms of user security and let people be anonymous, and how we can prevent other companies mining this data and just using those data against you, right? Or it can be government, it can be anyone. So that is the one of the biggest concerns right now.
I mean, one of the important things is to keep the conversation going, make people aware that this is something that can happen. I think the technologies, with all the Facebook debacle, as far as all our personal information being sold, I think most people have become aware that these big companies and these companies in general, we have to know exactly what it is we're giving up, because nothing's free, right? The reason Facebook doesn't charge anything is because they sell our information.
Yep.
If you're comfortable with that,
and others.
you know how comfortable you are with it, how much of your information is being sold. And blockchain, of course, I'm a big advocate of blockchain, not necessarily cryptocurrencies, but blockchain is a very solid way of getting these kinds of things done. Seeing, blockchain is going to start to come into the food, our food chain, and as far as so that maybe we know what romaine lettuce we're not supposed to eat instead of don't eat any romaine lettuce. We'll be able to figure these things out. But the same thing will happen with in virtual world where I'll be able to say, okay, yeah, this is me, and here is what I share, and here's what I want to keep private, and maybe there'll be some way I can hold on to my all my parameters and own them, and say, okay, I'm going to use this as a key to get into this place, or I don't want to use it over here, But these kind of things, as far as what your online identity, is becoming more and more important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And and just as now there's going to be artificial intelligence thrown into the mix, it'll be able to identify you right away, from your behavior, so that you can't be anonymous. Like you said, the same thing with your, how your person, body moves. I would say I've got a different kind of cadence and everything else than anyone else in this room. That's something in AI will be able to immediately pick up on.
Immediately,
once it's trained on what you are.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a concern. I think it's something. I tend to say these things aren't roadblocks. I think they're problems to be solved. But I think blockchain is going to be very, very key about that, as far as you having a public control over your personal identity.
Right. One way we try to address it in Somnium space, if I can say, is that first of all, we don't record what you do in VR, and we don't even know where people are, so they can just lose themselves here in the world, and we don't track them. And the second part is, in terms of you being recorded with the emotions, that's one of the features actually which people will pay us for. Where if you buy land, and many of you did on the Indiegogo, thank you. So if you buy land and then you own your house or your parcel, you can pay us monthly fee, and we will record everything you do, every single movement and word you say on that parcel coming from you, and then we'll compile this data, and using AI will reproduce you as an avatar if you're not there. Imagine you die, or someone dies, or something happens, or you just want to leave yourself there while you are not in VR. This person will be getting better and better, and eventually, if someone is coming to your parcel and you are offline, second you will greet you. You will be you, and this avatar will be able to behave like you, and I mean, people think it's super far away. Actually, it's not. If you Google, if you know what Google has presented this year in terms of the virtual assistant, how they called restaurants with the artificial voice, and how this voice was able to reserve tables in the restaurants or other appointments. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to YouTube and find it, because that is as an amazing and creepy in the same time as it can ever get. Like, that AI was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the performance capture kind of thing that you're talking about, and then, of course, extrapolating that to having, an AI look at all the performances you've ever done and maybe, recreate them on your own. And I like that. I think it's pretty compelling technology. There are things you can do, like go into AltSpace and rewatch a Reggie Watt performance, anytime. Well, not anytime, but, having scheduled, replays of performances and stuff like that. Yeah. Again, it's a new kind of thing that hasn't existed. To be able to do that in a spatial environment and get, have a, rewatch someone's speech or, whatever, musical performance. But again, it's new, and now, of course, there's new, questions about, what exactly, how much, of this stuff do you want to have live on, forever? And do you want to have a point, kind of like removing yourself from the internet, which is, becoming a thing. Do you want, maybe like when you actually die, maybe you don't want any of that stuff to continue going on, but that's something you should have control over.
Exactly.
And make those decisions for yourself, and not end up being like Roy Orbison, going on holographic, journeys that he could never envision, as far as the concerts, Amy Winehouse, making out, having, would she have liked to have that happen? She didn't know that it was possible,
Yep.
So it's a lot of agency over what happens to your, all your data in the future, But again, keeping the
Absolutely.
conversation going so that we can have make sure people are aware. I think that's the key point we need to be making at at this level as these things start to come out.
Absolutely, agreed, 100%. Any more questions, comments from the audience?
How
Hello,
long
Denzi. Hi.
before?
Hello.
How long before people stay in VR all the time?
Sasha, in some cases it's already happening. I'm not pointing any fingers. No finger pointing.
No.
What do you average, Sasha, a day?
Yeah, tell us.
About
I would say on average an hour every day.
and what's your longest stint-ish?
Longest probably 6 hours straight. Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's about where I'm at.
My longest is, I think,
You have to schedule the 6 hours.
three and a half.
Trust me. Make sure no one
Yeah.
else is going to be in the house.
True.
But yeah.
But I'm just
All right.
curious in
Full-time?
terms of because of the immersion going up, the Tesla suit. How long before we're Ready Player One? What's your prediction?
Be careful.
Are
it's
people
recorded.
having that ability, to do that optionally, not necessarily to the level of where everybody does it, like in Ready Player One. I'd say 2020.
2020.
You'd have technology that's good enough that people could spend really significant periods of time, with just either having bathroom breaks or going with a catheter or whatever, that kind of thing, where you could really be 10, 12, 14 hours, however long you're going to stay up for.
2020. I'd say 2022. For people for it to be completely comfortable and affordable. I think but it's basically where
It all depends on the
4
demand
years
and how what kind of breakthroughs we have, and that's why it's always kind of hard for me to say much beyond what next year should be, because you don't know what the innovations are just about to come up and people start talking about them.
Absolutely.
I think something I
Gotta
saw
go. Thank you, everyone.
recently.
Okay.
See you,
cheers,
Sasha.
guys.
See you.
Something I saw recently was actually an estate agent saying to a client, "Do you have VR in your home?" "Yes." "Oh, good. I'll just send you the data file of the house you're looking at." And you could then
Sure.
load it up and just look around the house at your own place whilst you're thinking about the move, And I think, again, as you were saying, it coming into businesses on a much larger scale now, both in the training and in the sales, and I'm seeing that a lot, that these guys are utilizing VR. And that's now a question on the phone. Do you have VR in your home? Can I send you the data file? And, you can get access to something maybe you're interested in buying, like the Tesla car, for instance, again.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is you can visit a lot of more locations in VR than you can, say, in an afternoon in the real world, right? Anyone who's had to try to find a new pick out a home, you might be able to hit 6 places in a weekend driving around, or you could hit dozens in virtual reality and narrow it down to most of these I have no interest in, but these 2 or 3, let's go check those out in the real world. After I've looked at 24, but it's something that definitely is something that real estate I know is jumping onto it, and of course they can do a 360 of the interiors of all these places, and it's not distracting at all.
Someone is
And
hungry.
let you walk
So it's
around
probably Sasha.
rather than look at rather than have you look at 12 pictures about an interior. You can actually go in and look around it yourself
Walk
and
around
say,
it.
okay,
Yeah, literally.
what's that sink actually look up close? Okay, that's okay. This isn't okay. I want to poke around the closets, and as long as they've captured all that stuff, you can get really down into it, as opposed to looking, like I said, a dozen pictures, which gives you very little information about what place is actually like once you get there.
I think also the privacy aspect of it, I think, is also a big selling point, because in that environment, I don't know about yourself, but when I went to look at a house once and I had an estate agent standing there, I didn't feel comfortable actually poking around the place. But
Yeah, true,
by having that
true.
data
They kinda
file
guide
in
you
your
around,
hand,
yeah.
as it were, in your home, you can go wherever you like, and you're not got someone looking over your shoulder, as it were. You know, so I think that aspect of it is going to be very good as well.
Absolutely. And I guess maybe I'll ask one more question. Is what is your most crazy good, I mean, experience you had in VR so far? What is something you've experienced which you remember until today that was so amazing, that blew your mind? If you wouldn't pick one, what would it be until today?
I'm gonna have to say Beat Saber.
All right.
Beat Saber felt so natural,
Yeah.
and they used the haptic, they used sound and the lighting and haptic feedback in such a way that I just lost myself in it. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that I'm in a VR environment, and it has nothing to do with lightsabers
Absolutely.
or anything. It's just very visceral, and it's done so well.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't hit a block, you don't have to turn your head to see that you didn't hit the block. You feel with your controller you didn't hit it. Because you didn't get that feedback of every time you hit a block, you get that that feeling in your hand. It was just very balanced, and it wasn't trying to do too much. And I think, like, for me, it was one of the points where I could say, wow, you can really buy into this kind of experience. There's not too much going on. It's not trying to be 12 different things, and just and again the kind of the little bit of haptic feedback went a long way to, like, you saying, yeah, okay, this is something that's different from a lot of the other experiences that I've had.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you. And they nailed it. And I just wonder whether, I mean, we can ask them, but I guess I know the answer, but they did an amazing job. But I just wonder whether they expected such an amazing, did they realize that they were actually creating something such amazing, an experience as they did create, And I think they didn't. I think they did the best job they could to create that game, but they didn't realize until it got so
I'm pretty
popular.
sure they were blown away by how quickly.
Yeah,
it got
exactly.
And the number of, like, the amount of money that started coming into them right away, because when they released, they were like a 3-person team.
Yeah,
I think it was like 2 developers and one other, something like that. And
one musician. Yeah.
they had no idea that they were going to be the absolute, top-rated game on Steam, not just VR, just across the board.
Yeah.
It was that well liked by that many people to be, more liked than Fallout 4 or some of these other, huge AAA titles.
It's amazing.
And I mean, I don't know exactly what their numbers are now, but when I have a bad session, I see a giant number come up as far as what my ranking is. So there's got probably 100,000, maybe a million persons in there right now. And of course now they're getting out into VR arcades, and they got a long road ahead of them.
Exactly.
I don't see that starting to wind down for
it's
another
great.
5 years or so.
It gets a lot of people into VR, so that's great. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It's almost our
All right.
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So if you don't have any more questions,
Not more question and also curiosity. Basically, we are using VR already. Yeah, we enjoy it, everything, blah blah. But do you guys think that we will ever reach the point where we can actually say, okay, I wake up in the morning, I put my headsets, and I'm at work? To actually start working, to have the jobs in VR, not to learn how to do stuff like physical work, but to actually be working inside VR. Do you think that will happen?
I don't think that
and
would
if
really
yes,
take that much
when?
longer. Yeah. I mean, it really would depend upon the specific, what we're specifically talking about. But I don't think it would be very, very much longer before your home office could certainly be all in virtual reality, where you just throw a screen up and throw another screen up, and why buy a 5-screen system? You can throw up 5 screens, and be looking at working on a document over here and watching something else that's going on over here. That's just a matter of having the applications catch up, which that could be done in, like within a year. Other types of operations may take longer, depending on how complicated what the processes are. And obviously, a lot of things that require you to be at a physical location in the real world aren't going to be there like that unless we get into surrogate robotic type stuff. But that's possible too. It might be cheaper to have a mechanic that isn't physically near your car, but it has a robot there, and then one mechanic sits in a silo someplace and does the next virtual job for them to come through, and they come and do it, and robot arms take care of the actual physical work. That could happen too with a lot of different industries. Before the AIs become so good that they could do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. But when like for this, because this is very like advanced, yeah, and I'm not sure if we are that close. Like, but when would you estimate something like that can actually happen? Like, I don't know, 2050 or.
Oh, up 2050. I don't think we're going to be talking about virtual reality at all.
Uh-huh.
Again,
we'll
I'm
have no reality anymore.
More like a 2020 to 2022, where maybe a lot of us are doing most of our work, what we call work, in virtual reality. I don't think that's hard to understand anymore. 2050, you got to be thinking about like I can't imagine 2050. Not how fast things are coming out. But I don't think you have to wait that long.
So the industries will move to VR first. What do you think?
Yeah,
like
the cost efficiencies are there for them, and we'll just start with training, because, like I said, it's easier to train somebody on a virtual machine rather than have them break a physical machine or get hurt by a physical machine. That's why a lot of the companies are saying, "Yeah, this is great technology. Let's do it." And then when the companies start working, as far as like enabling, stronger like virtual, presence, like a lot of jobs can be done remotely now with a home office and an internet connection. But I think a lot more of them will start to be able to come available once the companies realize that they can trust the technology and that they come up with unique use cases for it. So you may just be something that you do that a robot does physically, and you're just sitting at home, doing it. So you log into a system and you place packages for 4 hours, and you log your time, and then you go back and go to the real world and do your own thing.
So
and that'll just become more and more complicated jobs will be available.
Yeah, agree, and I guess I'd say amen for all that. We all hope that it will create, and not because we create Somnium, but it's just because I personally love hanging out in car and having those emotional moments with people and connecting with them and listening to the music and playing bowling and whatever, creating your own hot dog. That's all great. And it's just what people want, and exactly share with others maybe sometimes. Yes, and yeah, I guess with that, I would one more time thank Robert for coming in. I don't know, Rob, do you want to plug something in where people can find you? What do you, where they can find your work? What do you do? Maybe any podcasts? Just go tell the users.
Follow me on Twitter. That's my biggest platform. I'm almost always on Twitter. Follow me. If you have any other questions, direct message me on Twitter. I'm also, if you want to email me, it's RoblemVR@cyberadept.com. And I'm happy to, talk with people, and if you got some stuff you want to collaborate on, I'm open for ideas. So.
Alrighty, and with that, if you turn around, you can see I've just written something to you, and
thank you.
Yeah, if you want to hang out, the recording of this event will be published on our YouTube channel within a few days. I'll let you know when that happens. Join our Discord, and I guess right now it's a great time to enjoy some VR and maybe go and play some bowling. Show me your bowling skills, people. Let's do that. And yes, thanks a lot. Big round of applause to Rob.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
It was great.
Thanks a lot.